Hello, mighty warriors, and welcome back to my channel. Um, First, I want to wish you a beautiful day. I hope that you're having a wonderful, beautiful day. And I want to talk to you a little bit about spiritual progress. This weekend, I watched a wonderful sermon from OCBF Bible Fellowship. Lead pastor Jonathan Evans talked about how when you are making spiritual progress, you are going to inevitably experience spiritual warfare. Spiritual progress equals spiritual warfare. And he gave this wonderful example about how when he was first being installed as a head pastor and how much joy he had, and it was a beautiful day. And then how as soon as he got home, it was like all heck broke loose. I mean, things were coming at him from every angle. The kids, the house, just everything. And he was making a point that whenever you are pushing back the darkness and you are moving forward and you are making spiritual progress, you are absolutely guaranteed spiritual warfare. And he was talking about how in the Bible, you know, when anyone ever messed with one of God's people, the the attacks of the enemy were nothing compared to the knock of that saint on God's door. And how very easily, God was able to come through and help his saints. And he talked about how Peter was in prison and how he was being monitored 24 hours a day and how he was in chains. He was chained to two Roman soldiers, and every 6 hours those Roman soldiers would rotate. And there was two Roman soldiers at the gate of the prison. So there was no way that this man was going to get free. He was under 24-hour surveillance. Just like the enemy sends monitoring spirits to put us under surveillance, we are all under 24-hour surveillance. And even then, when they started singing and praising, God sent an angel, and that angel woke Peter up, and the chains fell from his arms. It doesn't matter what spiritual warfare we're dealing with. It is nothing compared to what God can do for us. God is bigger and greater than any of that warfare. He gave examples in the Bible about times where the enemy was attacking God's people and how God rushed in and saved them. And those evil people, those evil men and women, met horrible ends. Pharaoh met a horrible end. Haman met a horrible end. Balaam met a horrible end. Goliath met a horrible end. Jezebel met a horrible end. Anyone that messes with God's people who are trying to advance God's kingdom and glorify his name, they are setting themselves up for a horrible end. And so we shouldn't be afraid to progress spiritually, because we have someone who is there for us, who is willing to send his angels to drop those chains, to push back the darkness, to make our enemies meet a horrible end. And, you know, I bring this up because in my life, there's always this temptation. I know that the Lord wants me to use my gifts in this way. But inevitably, I know once I start, I'm going to meet warfare, right? But God's like, no, you gotta keep going, because Jesus kept going. Jesus was meeting the ultimate warfare when he died on the cross for us. He was trying to make spiritual progress for us. What do you think that all of that beating him was about? All of that chastising him was about? All of that torturing him was about? It was the enemy giving him warfare because he was about to make the ultimate spiritual progress. And he did not stop for us. He did not give up for us. He did not lay down and just throw up his hands, because he knew that we would need him. And so he's asking us to do the same thing, to not give up, to keep going, to push through the persecution, to push past the warfare, to push past the aggression for his kingdom, for his sake. He's not asking us to do anything more than he did for us. So I hope that this message was a blessing to you. I hope that this makes clear to you why, as Christians, we cannot lay down. We cannot give up just because we're faced with warfare, because he did not lay down and give up for us when he was facing warfare. He kept pushing. He kept going. And he could have stopped, because all of that suffering, all that wasn't for his sin. That was for ours. So I hope, again, that this message was a blessing to you. If you are being tempted to stop doing something that you know that the Lord wants you to do, I challenge you to hear this message and not give up. I challenge you to continue to push, even though the warfare is hard, even though the warfare is grinding you down. Because if you just knock on God's door, he can send an angel to rush in, and suddenly you're free. And suddenly the chains fall from your hands. And suddenly the fact that you're being monitored 24 hours a day, it doesn't matter, because your enemy is going to meet a terrible end. Till next time, be baptized and be blessed.